It is what happens, not what it is, but what happens to this rod bacteria that is significant, because it's going into what I then videotaped and captured for the first time that I know of, and I've showed this at Vienna University, I've shown this at Tsinghua University, I've shown this at Oxford University, and now we're showing this at Harvard University, which has never been seen before, the biological transformation of bacteria into a red blood cell and then bacteria out of the red blood cell. It's reversible.
All fluids found in the living world of plants, animals and humans contain a microbe which various scientists have called an endobiont, somatida or oncoexma. It is to be found in all body fluids, including the blood, urine, saliva and the seminal fluid. At first, this microbe appears in the size of a virus, but depending on its environment can mutate to the size of bacteria, and under certain circumstances can even manifest itself in the fungal form. The endobiont's purpose in an intact environment is a marginal yet permanent stimulation of the immune system. Deviations from the normal body fluid environment inevitably cause cyclogenetic mutations in the endobiotic viroid microbe, which then mutates from the symbiotic state to parasitical forms and thus indicates the degree of the pathologic state. To provide evidence of this, a blood sample was washed several times to eliminate the serum infestation and then placed in a saline solution and enriched with glucose. After about 10 minutes, the endobiont has escaped from the erythrocyte into the synthetic environment, where it develops itself first into a Y shape and then continues to mutate into a rod shape. Then it divides itself into tiny cocci, which finally emit ball-shaped elements into the surroundings. When subjected to an even more extreme change to its environment, the endobiont will even develop into a fungal state, as the following pictures show.
A flu is a solvent detoxification. A cold is normally a bacterial detoxification where microbes eat damaged tissue that is of a waste product, and when they consume that tissue, they can consume about 50 times their weight 24 hours, and they have a waste product of about 1 to 5%. So that's like you eating 50 pounds of food in one day and having a 1 to 5 pound waste product to deal with the next day. That's a good janitor.
Really?
You know, so we want colds. Now, flus occur when people are so toxic that bacteria cannot help break down the toxic waste products because there's inorganic substances like chemicals from pesticides, inorganic fertilizers, food additives, Pepsi Cola, all those sodas which are just chemical, they have nothing to do with food. When those chemicals get in the body and saturate the body and they destroy the bacteria, then our bodies have to make a solvent or many varieties of solvents to dissolve tissue. So the body may make about 300,000 types of viruses that are specific to a specific tissue within a particular cell, so that the whole cell its integrity isn't disrupted. So the whole cell doesn't die. It's just cleaning out, let's say, the veins in a particular area of the cell, whether it be the veins for neurological functions or lymphatic, which is cleansing, or the blood itself within the cell. So those are specific cleansing viruses for specific areas in the body. Now, no time does it ever get to the point where you have more than, let's say, 3 viruses at a particular time in any particular body.
Okay.
And in this particular case, let's say the swine flu, you're talking about a specific tissue of a pig. And of course, a pig is not going to have a virus unless it is so toxic from poor feed and vaccines and all kinds of medication that it can't use its natural bacterial cleansing.
We have swine flu has arisen because we have sick pigs out there who cannot, the necessary viral response is inadequate for them to take care of their own bodies, so they manifest this swine flu, correct? I mean,
correct.
Okay.
Now, you can have 300,000 varieties of swine flu because of the different complex 300,000 different types of tissue to be cleansed within a pig, just like within any other animal organism. However, they cannot cross species.
So how did we get swine flu then?
It's been made in a factory and injected.
So in theory, a virus, first of all, there are good viruses, obviously, as you just described.
All viruses are good viruses.
All right, so and they're obviously necessary responses to something that's happening biologically in us.
So we know that children need to have fevers. They need to have these childhood illnesses, and historically, that's always been available through diseases like roseola and chickenpox and measles and mumps, and they provide a type of gut reset for the child, a nice high metabolic fever in their gut to clear anything that's been sitting there. So any residual undigested proteins or viruses or foods or emotions, it kind of gives a gut reset. After the child has these fevers, these really good childhood illnesses, they are often working through something that they're working on.
Illness is a natural part of maturation.
For instance, with roseola, it's around the time the child's crawling, okay? So the child's trying to develop this new motor skill. They get the roseola, and after they recover from their illness, they're crawling. We see similar things with chickenpox and crossing the midline. We see similar things with measles and learning how to read. So it's interesting, we don't have these diseases anymore of childhood for the most part, and we're seeing an increase in problems with, children don't crawl. They're having difficulty crossing the midline. They're not integrating their infant reflexes, and they're dyslexic.
So in theory, a virus, first of all, there are good viruses, obviously, as you just described.
All viruses are good viruses.
All right, so and they're obviously necessary responses to something that's happening biologically in us.
Correct.
And so the swine flu virus or any of the normal viruses that we catch throughout the years, how are they actually, do they incubate in our body and sit dormant until we spread it to someone else? I've never understood where the viruses go. The viruses are like the cicadas to me. It's a mystery. They come out once every 7 years, but where are they for that 6.9 years before they come out? Where do viruses reside?
Okay, you're working under a wrong premise to begin with,
Okay.
and you're never going to find the answer if you do that.
Okay.
Viruses have no nucleus. There's no respiratory system. There's no circulatory system. There's no digestive system. Viruses are not alive. That's like saying Tide soap is alive.
Okay.
They're not alive. They are solvents. They are soaps. We don't eat well enough. We don't eat all raw, and therefore we accumulate toxicity. So bacteria have to come in and eat that waste products because we can't keep up with all the waste.
Gotcha.
But when we are so toxic that the bacteria are poisoned by the tissue from chemical inundation, then we have to make solvents. Each cell makes a solvent.
Gotcha.
Each cell makes a soap to help clean itself.
Okay.
And it's a union. It's like a factory. Particular cells get together and say, let's make this for us to help clean us. So they're making a soap to do that. So there's nothing dormant about it. It's just that when the accumulation of waste is so great and you can't use bacteria, then the cells make a solvent.
There you go. Okay.
And that's a flu. That's a virus. That is the only way that a human being can get a bird flu or a swine flu, is if it is injected in them. We do not have those tissue. Once a animal product goes into our stomach, it no longer holds the animal's tissue. It completely dissolves it and makes it into human tissue. So there's no way we can get a swine flu or a bird flu, avian flu, any other flu. Years ago, they used to blame it on races, the Spanish flu, the Mexican flu, and stuff like that.
Right.
Then when Rockefeller and Carnegie started taking over the universities in the early 1900s, shortly after that, after the Spanish flu incident, they started blaming everything on animals. Monkey flu, monkey AIDS, all this stuff. They're always blaming an animal, a natural creature. They're always blaming nature. You cannot get a virus into another animal. Viruses are cellularly produced in their whole form. So if a human cell creates a virus, it can only be done inside a human body or in a test tube where you have human cells.
So there's no cross species
of flus. You can't do of viruses. It's impossible.
Right. I mean, you can get a herpes from another human being, obviously, but you can't.
No, you can't.
Oh, you
no,
can't?
that is false also. The swine, any kind of flu is the same thing. When the climate temperature is right, certain tissues will cleanse, and they may go in a 7-year cycle, they may have a 6-month cycle. It depends upon the tissue and how contaminated it is. If certain tissue needs to clean out every 2 years, it will create, and you can't use the bacteria, your body will create a solvent, a virus, that cleans that particular tissue every 2 years, every 6 months, every 3 months, every 7 years, every 12 years, depending upon that tissue and how contaminated it is. The only way people can get swine flu is if they've taken animal, a pig tissue, grown it in a solvent, toxic environment, and then these swine cells create a virus to break itself down.
Okay. Now let's.
You can inject it into a human, and then you will find those actual swine tissue in there.
Which is where the virus would end up having someplace to reside. Then.
Correct.
Yeah,
no, there's no place to reside because they're not alive to reside.
Okay.
It's just you have a waste product, and now the body has to clean that waste product out of the body, and it's going to be very alarmed because you've got foreign tissue in there injected into the body.
Okay.
That's why Guillain-Barré disease, that's why anaphylactic shock occurs when you inject people with foreign debris, foreign tissue. It goes into shock. It can even die from the shock of foreign tissue being injected into you.
Okay.
All you have to do to fight against the swine flu is never get an injection from a doctor.
Yeah, there you
or
go.
An injection from anybody.
Right.
The only way you can get any kind of foreign animal tissue into your body is by injection.
Yeah, you're right. It makes perfect sense. I mean, they're pushing that what is that, human papillomavirus vaccine on a lot of young girls now, and they're trying to make the parents feel guilty if they don't let their kids. I would never let my kids get a vaccine of any type whatsoever.
Absolutely. They're all poison. And there's no record that they ever prevent anything.